heroes.
It's an old-fashioned notion.
A visionary, a genius, ensuring freedom around the globe.
A symbol to the nation, a hero to the world.
The beacon of hope, shining out across the stars.
I look around at us, you know what I see?
A bunch of a-holes.
Possibility. You think you know how the world works?
The world is changing. We need heroes.
Wakanda forever!
Our very strength invites challenge. Challenge incites conflict. Conflict breeds catastrophe. The thing isn't beautiful because it lasts.
We're in the Endgame now.
Before we're done, we still have one promise to keep.
If we can't protect the Earth, you can be damn sure we'll avenge it.
Whatever it takes.
And welcome you guys to another episode of J House. Welcome. This is our official podcast as well. So we will have you guys there too. And we are excited to be here today. Oh yeah, we got our guest, Evan, my homeboy here.
Bro, after watching, I don't know if y'all can see that. Oh, hey, Asher.
Hey.
Bro, I don't know if you could see, but just watching that trailer, I've got goosebumps on goosebumps on goosebumps right now.
Stop it, Joker Bond.
Crazy. But yeah, man, straight goosebumps, man. Straight goosebumps. I definitely can see the goosebumps.
Stop it.
I gave Asher his own camera and he just acts up. Now he don't know how to act with it. But man, just 5 years since the Avengers. 5 years since then, and so it's just been a crazy journey. That trailer really encapsulated and really captured.
I poked you with my toenail.
Stop!
I poked you with my toenail.
Do not do that. But yeah, that trailer really captured the essence of everything that the Marvel Universe has built to. And so, man, just an incredible journey, one that we've been on for 10 years. And so I cannot believe that is 5 years already of Endgame.
But dude, you remember Endgame was a very special reaction for us because Endgame, if you remember, that was the first time you and I ever went live together on video. That was the first time. You'd done videos before, but that was the first time I did it. That was also the first time you and I did a podcast that went longer than 30 minutes. Up until that point, everything we had done was like 30-minute video, 30-minute podcast. Endgame was so special. We didn't even know how long it would go. We were just talking about what we had just seen, and it just happened that it took us an hour to talk about what we had just witnessed. because it was that good. It was that amazing. It was that unbelievable. I mean, so to kick this off, bro, let me ask you, and then I'll answer my own question.
Yeah.
What was your reaction after you saw Endgame, just revisiting that? And 5 years later, what's the legacy of Endgame?
At the time, it was sort of a because when you're, like they say, comparison is the thief of joy, and so I think that Asher, calm down. Hush. I think that comparison is the thief of joy, and so when you talk about appreciating something, I think that at the time I didn't really appreciate Endgame as much. My boy is going crazy. I didn't really appreciate Endgame as much because because of the constant flux that DC was in and all of that and all that was going on. But once I put that to the side and just focused objectively on what the MCU was bringing into culmination since I was a kid. Ashley just hurt himself, bro. He just fell and flipped over the couch. You okay, buddy? Sit down, please. Sit down. Chill out. But bringing that into perspective just really sort of made me realize how special the MCU was. My first thoughts coming out of Endgame was just, well, this is what DC could have been. That was my exact thought. That's exactly what I was thinking about. I was thinking about what the MCU could have been and how much better it would have been had, certain aspects had taken their time, because Endgame is a 10-year build-up. And so it was just incredible to see the fruition of it. It was epic. It was the only thing it ever needed to be, which was simple. Let's bring everyone back, bring half the galaxy back, universe back, and then let's stop Thanos once and for all. And so I think that it doesn't get any more epic than that. And Endgame was it was epic. Now that this will be a debate for later, because I sort of I think Infinity War, this is like comparing Two Towers to Return of the King. That's how neck and neck I think these movies
if you're about to say Infinity War is better than Endgame, you really won't get much of a debate from me, because I would agree from beginning to end, Infinity War is a better movie. I'll be honest, watching Endgame the first time, there were times during the first 2 hours I kind of zoned out. It just felt, I was like, all right, well, like when they kept going back in time and everything,
yeah,
I was like, all right, this is whatever. But brother, that last hour of the movie, you would have needed a SWAT team to get me out of that theater.
Yeah.
But
I believe it.
I'll say one sec, bro.
No, go ahead. You're good. But Endgame was just really a genuine opportunity to experience what kind of hype and build up is. And so for me, just again to reiterate, coming out of that theater, my mind was blown. I cried. I cried. I shed and I know that sounds cliche because everybody says that, but I really cry. I'm a crier at theaters.
Well, man, if it's true, it's true.
Yeah, I mean, especially when it's a story that you've invested so much in and been so invested in your entire life, you're gonna feel some kind of way. You let the emotions flow. That's the beauty of theater, of the theater. And so it definitely hit me all at once, actually realizing, that Tony Stark was gone. Robert Downey Jr. was really did his last bid as Iron Man and went out the most epic way possible. That final battle, that's 10 years worth of buildup. And it sort of hits you all at once. And each time I go back to it, I feel the exact same way, the exact same nostalgia, the exact same emotion that just brings tears. It brings tears to your eyes every time. And that's how you know that you've done it right and that you've done something amazing. So those were my thoughts coming out of it.
Let me say, first of all, I'm very, very proud of you, Eric. I'm very proud of you that you were finally. I mean, I've known this for 5 years, the whole time. But I'm proud of you that you have finally admitted that it was your comparison that robbed you of some of your complaints of the MCU in the past that I never agreed with. But you're not alone if it makes you feel any better. There were millions of just sad DC fans saying things like, "Oh, the MCU is just summer popcorn flicks. It's a formula. It's this, that, and the other. It's child's play movies." And I'm like, y'all stop. Y'all stop. First of all, if Endgame's a popcorn flick, so is The Dark Knight. If Endgame's a popcorn flick, so is Lord of the Rings. If Endgame's a popcorn flick, so is Star Wars, Alien, and all the other great fantasy movies that have ever come out. All right.
Yeah.
So, and I'm at the point now, bro. Let me go ahead and say this. Martin Scorsese knows more about cinema in one piece of his hair than I do in my entire body. So I'll go ahead and say that before I'm about to say. And in another video that we did, he was in my top 5 greatest directors of all time list. So you know I've got nothing but reverence for the man and respect for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Having said that, he's dead wrong when he tries to say that the MCU is not cinema. I read
100%.
his 100%. I read his art. He's got a whole article about it, I think, on the Washington Post. And I get where he's coming from, but here's my rebuttal. Cinema is about making you feel and taking you to different places. The MCU does that. It made you care about these characters. It made you love these characters. It took you on a journey. There were bumps along the way. Tony Stark dying, brother, 5 minutes before that, you couldn't hear anything in that theater. I mean, I'm standing up with my best friend, or one of my best friends, Tyler. We're literally standing up, hugging each other, watching this fight go on. Like, people are fist pumping, throwing. Like, bro, it was insane the amount of hype there.
Yeah.
When pin drop.
Pin drop.
It was just instant. Like, it was, I felt that. It was so deep. And the MCU, I've said this a million times about Phase 3, it was peak cinema. It was a great time. And look, I'm a DC fan. I mean, look, right behind me.
Facts.
I love DC. I got a stack of DC comics right over here about as tall as I am.
Yeah.
Right? And I get it. It was hard for DC fans to watch one studio, Marvel, create the greatest cinema masterpiece arguably ever. This amazing saga that was bigger than anything that's ever come before or since. Like, it was bigger than Star Wars. It was bigger than Lord of the Rings, bigger than Harry Potter, bigger than Star Trek. Like, there's nothing that, I mean, Avatar made more money because they had the Chinese release, but Avatar didn't have the 10-year buildup like this did. It didn't have people invested like this. And there's just, the only people I'm convinced that hate the MCU are those that just either just want to hate what's popular, because you know there's people out there, like, if it's popular, they're not going to like it just because it's popular.
Yeah.
And then there's the sad DC fans. And I get it. I get it. It was rough watching Marvel dominate, watching the MCU fanboys pop off about how bad DC sucks. Although I'll have to say they weren't wrong when they started talking about some of the DC films. Because, I mean, 2016 Suicide Squad deserved to get clowned on. While they were out watching Civil War, that same year, we watched Suicide Squad. Ooh.
Yeah. Asher, sit down. Chill.
So I get all of that. But, bro, on the topic of Endgame itself, I can't put into words the level. I mean, I'm sitting here wearing a Captain America shirt for the occasion. But, I mean, I can't put into words the emotion that came from the 3-on-1 Iron Man, Cap, and Thor fight versus Thanos. I mean, and you want to talk about lines, you know, like with Heath Ledger, what makes him so amazing? His iconic lines, watch the serious, all that. Right. Bro, when Thanos hit them with, "You could not live with your own failure," and where did that bring you? back to me. I was like, oh, we about to fight. We are about to fight.
About to go down.
And then right before that, Thor hitting him with the line, let's kill him properly this time. I'm like, oh, we're going to fight. We're going to fight. We're going to fight. Bro, I'm watching the theater like this. I'm like,
yeah.
And then Thanos wins. And I'm like, oh my God, they can't stop this guy. But then the greatest, I say this with no exaggeration, bro. The most goosebumps I've ever had in any theater was when the Avengers came back. I have never had a moment in cinema that reached that level of every hair on my arm is standing up. Everybody in the theater's on their feet. They're freaking the frick out. And it's just unbelievable. And Cap finally saying Avengers Assemble. I mean, that was the perfect time to use that line.
I couldn't believe he was going to say it. As soon as I leaned up in my seat and I'm like, this guy's going to say it. I'm like, I know he's not about to say it. I looked right at Tessa and I'm like, they're looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, babe, he's about to say it.
Mm-hmm.
Say this. And he said it and I was like, they won. I said, oh my God, they won. Forget about it.
And then even after that whole epic fight, Thanos gets the gauntlet and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
Even after all that.
All that and he still got it? But then, bro, I thought my ears were going to bleed because when Tony showed that he had the stones on his gauntlet, brother, you couldn't hear nothing. And then that was one of the most iconic exchanges in cinema history. I am inevitable and I am Iron Man. I mean, like it was so iconic. Freaking Rise of Skywalker ripped it off.
To replicate it. Yeah.
They out there. I was like, I'll never forget watching that. Like, no, they didn't.
Sequel fans swear that it was written way before. I'm like, bro.
Do what?
Come on now. I said, come on now. I'm all the Sith, and then I'm all the Jedi. Bro, that's word for word, copy and paste exactly in game. If that's what thank you. Ray is not a Jedi Knight, Asher. That's right. I'm just kidding. But
that's one of those. Hey, can I copy your homework? Yeah, just change it up a little bit so the teacher can't tell.
Yeah, so that the teacher won't notice.
That's one of those moments.
That's exactly what it was.
But you look back through the MCU.
Yeah.
There are movies that maybe some people don't like. Like I know you're not a fan of Ragnarok. Me personally, I love that movie. I think it's the best of the Thor movies. That's just my opinion. I love that one.
Yeah.
But from phase 1 to phase like all the way up to Endgame, there were no bad Marvel movies.
Yeah.
And that's what, like, even characters that maybe weren't as hyped up as the OG 3, Iron Man, Cap, Thor. You look at Guardians of the Galaxy, great movie. Doctor Strange, great movie. Black Panther, one of the best superhero films I've ever seen. Look, I'll be honest. I knew nothing about him going into that movie. I knew nothing about Black Panther. I'm not a Marvel fan. I didn't grow up with Marvel comic. Well, I am a Marvel fan, but like I didn't grow up with the comics and the TV shows and all that. I watched Batman animated, and that was about it.
Yeah,
that's where my animated and Avatar. That's what I grew up on for my action series. I just re-binged Avatar again the other day, and God, that show never gets old. But
mix up Batman. And
I watched Batman too, Asher.
Asher loves Batman the animated series.
You're raising him right.
Batman.
He just actually, side note, he's been binging the original 92 series X-Men for the past 3 days. We finished all of season 1 in like 3 days. Boy just finished the last episode of season 1 of X-Men. I'm like, bro, the boy is already starting off right. He's already starting.
Avatar's got to be in there somewhere.
Avatar?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Last Airbender, bro. You got to get that one in there.
Oh, yeah, I will.
But back on Endgame,
yeah.
In my opinion, the legacy of Endgame is this. Putting it simply, it is, in my opinion, let me think about this long and hard before I say this.
Before you say what you're about to say.
I'd say it's the greatest superhero movie of all time. I would say that it is, and I would throw The Dark Knight in there. That's where it was difficult for me. Am I saying I like Endgame more than The Dark Knight? Not really. But I would say that the legacy of Endgame is just as, if not greater and bigger than The Dark Knight's legacy was. The Dark Knight's legacy is it took superheroes to the Academy. It added another level of acting and writing to superhero films that we'd never seen. Heath Ledger gave us arguably the greatest villain performance in a movie ever. In my opinion, still the best superhero villain performance ever. And that would include Thanos. But, brother, Endgame was just on another level. It was just on another level. That final fight, I never thought a fight would reach the emotion and the epicness of Anakin and Obi-Wan in Episode 3, or Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. I never thought we'd see a fight reach that level epicness until I saw Endgame.
Yeah.
And I said after Endgame, this movie just blew every other fight I've ever seen out of the water. All of the emotion, everything. And I'm not trying to overhype the movie or anything, but when we're talking about Endgame, you're thinking about 10 years of build-up, all these characters that we love throughout the years. Spider-Man, Thor, Captain America, Iron Man, Black Panther, all of them. All these characters we love, all coming together for one epic showdown against Thanos. And there were just so many moments in the fight, like Captain Marvel flying through the mothership, Tony looking over at Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange hits him with the, he didn't want to tell him exactly. He's like, if I tell you what happens, it won't happen. So he subtly hit him with that iconic, just slowly lifting the finger up, and everybody in the theater lost it. Like, this is the one. This is the one. Like, everybody was losing it, bro. And so I think about Endgame. I think about perfection in one word. Absolute perfection. Superhero perfection. The gold standard, the standard. I don't think Marvel will ever again replicate what they did in that film. I don't think we'll ever see it. I think it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, like watching Brady play quarterback or having Saban as your coach. It is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and you need to enjoy it when it happens. And I honestly, bro, back in the day, back in 2019, 18, 17, where we watched the DCU go to hell in a handbasket and we watched Marvel ascend, I felt bad for the DC fans trying to pop off and say anything. I'm like, yo, let it go. Get off of social media. Who cares if they're trolling about the superheroes? It ain't that deep. It's really not. These are movies. It's not Disney's fault that Warner Brothers blew it. It's not their fault. They didn't do anything wrong other than make phenomenal movies. And I love Marvel. I started reading Marvel comics because of the MCU. I just downloaded the Spider-Man game the other day. I'm about to play it because of the MCU. Like, the MCU brought me into Marvel. I'll admit it. Now, I had liked the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, and I like Logan, and I like other movies that don't fit in the MCU. But, bro, Endgame changed my nerd life. Like, I love these characters so much. Perfect casting, perfect acting, perfect acting. I know I've gone on for a while, but, I mean, when we're talking about Endgame, we're talking about perfection. And the MCU, and this is what DC fans don't want to admit. That's my last point. This is what, but everyone knows it's true. Everyone knows this is true. Everything the MCU did right, DC did wrong. You make characters people care about, and you keep them, and you build up their story. DC didn't do that. They went all over the freaking place with all these other characters no one gave a rat's behind about. Good acting, DC had that sporadically. Some did, some didn't. Great action sequences with incredible CGI. Go watch Suicide Squad. It's some Power Ranger level stuff. It was that bad. It was horrific. But you know what? It ain't about DC. This is about Endgame and paying tribute to the greatest superhero film ever made. And 5 years later, that's what I believe its legacy is. It is perfection. It's the greatest superhero film ever made. It's up there with The Dark Knight. Yeah, that's my thoughts.
That's epic, man. Hey, just like I think a year or two ago, Infinity War celebrated its 5 years, so now it's on year 7. So we got about another 3 years. Yeah, about 3 years until it's time for the 10-year anniversary of Infinity War, and so I mean, just a back-to-back combo of excellence from Marvel, and that is now collectively known as the Infinity Saga, which could go down as probably the most massive story ever told in cinema, having that many storylines going at one time and to be able to weave them all together into one cohesive story. I think that's never been done in the hit that has never been done in the
No.
history of cinema. And so I think that and the thing that you said about Scorsese, which I found funny, is that Scorsese knows that Hollywood is a cutthroat game. Hollywood is a big boy game. You know, when it comes down to getting those movies made and making that money on return on investment, it's a dark game to play. And so it's kind of big boy ball. And so for years, you've had a lot of these studios that have set the standard for what they believe storytelling should be, and they've ran with it and they've dominated the industry for years. But then when Marvel Studios hops into the equation, when Disney takes it over, and they change up the narrative and the standard by doing what they did with the Avengers, the whole thing changes. And now you see everyone has to follow suit. Universal had to follow suit. Warner Brothers followed suit. You know, once the industry standard is set, then everybody tries to replicate it and follow it in some such way, and it changes the whole landscape of the industry. And so for the past 10 to 15 years, that's what we've been looking at, is a certain trend, that a standard that was set, a new way to tell stories, and then it just being replicated. Because if you tried to present this model back in the early 2000s, the studios would have looked at you like you were crazy, because they just wanted to focus on singular products: Blade, Spider-Man, Punisher, X-Men, you know what I'm saying, Fantastic Four, all those different solo projects, Ghost Rider, you know, and that's fine. But to connect them all together and do the characters a little bit more justice is something that they could have never imagined anyone could have pulled off. And now it's still happening today, because we never would have thought we'd see the live action X-Men again, or a live action Wolverine with a comic book accurate suit. And we just got it. So like, people are like, well, it just doesn't fit. Don't tell me what can't be done if the MCU can do that. Don't tell me what can't be done. If anybody can do it, it's Marvel. And people are probably like, well, y'all rag on Disney so much because, yeah, and we're gonna continue to rag on Disney about what they did to Star Wars. True, but this is about the MCU and what they've done right. And no project has come without those missteps, like you said. I think everything after Phase 3 has kind of been either too much, unnecessary, and subpar, and maybe here and there a big hit like Loki. I thought was pretty great.
No Way Home was really the only film post Endgame that's generated MCU level hype. Now,
No
I
Way
mean,
Home, yeah,
Guardians 3 generated some hype. It was good. But like Multiverse of Madness, The Marvels, Madam Web, even though that's Sony, but like all these other movies with the Marvel logo, they just haven't been hitting as much.
I mean, I thought the Marvels wasn't as bad as everyone made it out to be. I thought it wasn't that bad, but maybe everybody else sees something that I don't. But upon my first watch, I didn't think it was that bad. Uh, I don't think Captain Marvel's as an annoying character as people make her out to be in the films. In the comics, sure, different story, okay. But in the films, I don't think that film was as bad as people made it out to be. I just think
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
I mean, it's not my favorite, and I'm in no rush to really watch it again, but
yeah,
it was pretty good. But like I was just saying, like overall, the legacy of Endgame is it's the greatest superhero movie arguably ever made, up there with The Dark Knight. And like I was saying, dude, I'm just still amazed that we got to see it. That's where I'm at, and that's where I was back in the day. Like even when I was thinking, like, man, wouldn't have this been cool if it would have been Darkseid and the Justice League fighting instead? I mean, as cool as that would have been, I was like, yeah, but it's not.
It's not.
It's not. And I'm going to be honest, and this is probably going to lead to another discussion real quick before we hop off in a little bit, but I'm very pessimistic that we will ever see a DC level Endgame movie. I'm very pessimistic about that. Simply because Warner Brothers has shown me through Snyder, through Joss Whedon, through David Ayer, through James Wan, they don't have the same nerds working on their effects that Marvel does. I don't care what anybody tries to tell me. The effects in ZSJL, Aquaman, all these other films, they're good. Don't get me wrong, they're good. They're good. They're really good. They're not Endgame level good. I'm sorry, they're just not. They're not Doctor Strange. Like Disney special effects. I don't know where they get these nerds from to make all this stuff, but they're just different.
It's the budget.
They are different, man. Like they got that money to throw out. Like, yeah, Darkseid looked good. Thanos looked better. Like you may not agree with that, but I'm sorry.
I mean, I don't think it's really comparable or a fair comparison at that because, I mean, number one, ZSJL was a incomplete film that they gave Zach, I think, extra 60, 70 million to finish. And just to finish.
Did you see, hold on. Did you happen to see the trailer for Godzilla -1?
I did.
Do you know what the budget for that film was?
What, 50 million?
50 million, and you saw those special effects.
Yeah, and they look pretty good. They look pretty good.
My point exactly.
I'm not gonna say, but
that's the quality of the dudes you got working behind the scenes, and it ain't the director that does all the special effects. That's other people they got on there, and I'm saying those people, they ain't doing as good a job as the dudes at Disney are doing. They're just not.
Of course, Disney has had has had the animation game and the visual effects game. They've been innovators in that for a long time, so it's no surprise that Disney has the budget. Once you start making billion-dollar movies, those billions have to go back into the next part of those billions have to go back into the next project to do the next big thing. You compound 10 years of nothing but hits every movie. By the time you get ready to do your conclusion, you're going to have quite a huge budget. Let me look up that budget. You're going to have quite a huge budget after 10 years in order to do something, as opposed to...
Oh, I know Endgame had well over $200 million, but it may have been $500 million.
Ain't no telling. $365 million.
For Endgame?
That's one of the most expensive films ever made. I work in aviation. We build planes that are worth, a couple million. So compare spending 300 none that I know that is worth 365. But imagine spending that on a movie. You can imagine everything better be top notch. Everything better be. I could pull it up on Disney Plus right now, and they still have the IMAX enhanced version.
I'm gonna look up something real quick. Hold on. 2016 Suicide Squad budget. Bro, they dropped 175 million on 2016 Suicide Squad and gave us garbage.
Yeah, it just. It wasn't there. And look, like I said, and I've admitted this because I'm at this point now where I'm not crazy enough to, and this will be my closing point. I'm not crazy enough to say to not be objective about whether my favorite director makes a bad movie or not. I can admit if one of my favorite directors does, but and I can admit when another studio does something great. Like right now, I think Warner Brothers is killing the game as far as MonsterVerse films. They're doing great. I think they're doing great with sci-fi. They run the sci-fi genre right now with Dune. So I can't even be mad at that. Disney owns the superhero genre. You know, they own that, which is the biggest moneymaker, one of the biggest, if not the biggest moneymaker they have. Their Pixar films, for Christ's sake, churn out $1 billion every, you know what I'm saying, every other film or so. You know, not lately with a few flops, but their live action isn't doing great. But as far, I mean, dude, I don't spend time with thinking about what could have been. Like, not with anything, not with the sequel trilogy. I don't do it with the Snyder Cut saga anymore. I'm past it now because we're in a whole new
It would have
era.
never worked out, but we'll never agree on that.
We'll never agree on it because we'll.
I mean,
I'm
right, but we'll never agree on it.
You're not right. You're not right.
Oh, Snyder's not for everybody. He's never been a box office director, but he would have made the biggest box office with DC.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you see how those are conflicting points? He's not for everybody. Everybody would have loved it.
He's not for everybody, but two things can be true at the same time.
No.
I think that if DC and Warner Brothers would have sort of slowed their tone, took their time a little bit more after BVS and did a better Suicide Squad, I think gave us that original version of Justice League, of course, I think we'd be talking. I think DC would be in a different conversation right now. Maybe not even as great as the MCU, but I think it would be something. I think it would be something still. I still think it would be something great that people can enjoy if you're not necessarily into the MCU. So I mean, I think I'm coming at it from a standpoint of that this could have been the best of both worlds. I think that Marvel fans and DC fans should have been able to eat together. But because one studio was just mucking it up so much, and the director had a different vision, and the studio had a different vision.
Well, hold on a second. Marvel fans and DC fans can eat together because remember what came out? There were 2 movies that came out in 2019. Endgame.
I'm done recording.
That's true, but
how much money did this one make?
It made $1 billion. But
okay, so you know why that is? You know why that is?
They're not eating the same though. They're not eating the same.
You know why that was? Because this was a darn good movie, even though I don't think it was necessarily a comic book movie. It was a good movie.
Not a cinematic universe movie though.
Yeah, BVS, not a good movie.
Amazing movie.
The biggest drop off in box office history would disagree with you, but you know.
Still not a flop at $875 million.
Well, brother, it don't matter who was directing it. If you put Batman and Superman on a movie title, you're guaranteed to get at least 700.
And that guarantees, because it didn't flop, that it gets a continuation. Now, granted, upon that continuation, they mucked it up very bad after that. Even after that,
Snyder was already mucking it up before anybody else did.
Horseradish.
You know what? I take it back. You know what? Jesse Eisenberg, when he said "ding, ding, 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 ding," I got chills on chills.
Man,
that was
writing.
That's up there with Why So Serious. What am I talking about?
It is. He bodied that.
Jesus.
He bodied that scene. BVS is a freaking masterpiece, and the layers and the depths that it had to it are the kind of levels and depths that I miss from this current Snyder work.
Layers.
Hey, when Zach and Chris Terrio got together and wrote, they ate. Man of Steel, BVS, ZSJL. When Zach and Chris Terrio write together, bro, come on, don't even play. Watchmen, that writing, 300, man, don't even play with me. And like I just said, I'm yearning for that layer, that level of depth.
I hope they never bring anything back like that again.
As opposed to, hey, they will eventually.
No, Snyder's not coming back.
Not to DC, no.
Praise God.
Nolan's not either. That level isn't coming back either. Look, he's never coming. I think Matt Reeves is the closest thing we're going to get to a Nolan doing Batman ever again.
Well, I mean, sure, but we don't have to have a Nolan style of Batman. This is where DC screwed up with bringing on Zack Snyder. All right, and this will be one of my last points. If you're going to make a cinematic universe, you bring on somebody who's going to stay faithful to the characters and just give people a good movie. Snyder can't do that. He's proven with Rebel Moon what he's got to do is he's got to go be edgy and he's got to go do this, that, and the other. He's got to do way too much freaking crap in one movie, and he's got to get on podcasts and say dumb stuff like, when someone tells me that I can't do something with a character, my first thing to do is word for word. That's what he said. Word, and I heard that, and I was like, that right there, that comic is why you were the wrong pick. You were the wrong pick from day one. Man of Steel, decent movie. BVS, no, it was not good. You don't break records for box office drops from weekend one. I mean, 80%. 80% panned by critics, panned by the fans. There was just a small vocal minority of an online group who formed a hashtag that they spam on every freaking thing that Warner Brothers made. Oh, ZSJL will be the biggest movie ever. And it didn't even break the top 15 most watched movies on HBO Max. Go figure that year. But it's
not for lack of trying, because that's public record that WB did not promote ZSJL the way they did not put the marketing behind ZSJL. They had the trailer and the promos playing for
but if Zack Snyder was who people said he was, if he was the box office attraction and his movie was as big as people were saying it was, don't you think that movie could have made the top 15?
And HBO Max?
Yes.
I reckon it is now.
Bro, the year
it came out, you're talking about?
Which it came out in like what, April, May?
I think April, if I'm not mistaken.
So you had May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December to get into the top 15 of movies. What else came out that year?
I don't remember.
My point exactly.
Because the only thing, no, that's not your point exactly. The only thing that I was paying attention to, the only thing I got HBO Max for was for the Snyder Cut, because the physical release hadn't come out yet. That was it.
Hold on. It was 2021.
2021.
HBO Max. Hold on. Biggest movies. Here we go. Number one, I'm pretty sure it was Godzilla versus Kong. No, Mortal Kombat. Number two, Godzilla vs. Kong. 3, The Suicide Squad. So James Gunn did better than Snyder. Number 4, Matrix Resolutions. 5, bro, your boy got beat by Space Jam.
What?
Matrix Revolutions, number 4.
Oh, the third? You talking about the third movie or Resurrections?
Oh, did I? Yeah, I think I meant Resurrections.
Oh, Resurrection shouldn't even be up there. I hate that it is. That movie was terrible.
Yeah, I don't know why I said Revolutions. Dune was 6, Conjuring 7, Little Things 8, Tom and Jerry, Those Who Wish Me Dead. I mean, there's just a bunch of movies you never even heard of. Malignant, King Richard, Cry Macho, In the Heights, Judas and the Black Messiah. Like, that all beat ZSJL. I know you love them, and I'm sorry to dog on your boy. You can enjoy BVS all you want and say it's a good movie. He was the wrong pick then. He's the wrong pick now. And I'm going to say this, and you're going to disagree with me. DC fans, we dodged a bullet with Zack Snyder. We dodged a freaking bullet. All right? You don't have to have these, like, there's such a wide and here's the frustrating part for me. There's so much source material to work off of. And this man said, nah, I'm going to be edgy. And he gave us a Lex Luthor that people are still arguing. Well, actually, that's not the real Lex Luthor. That's his son. Even though you look up Jesse Eisenberg's character, it
That's
literally
wrong.
says it's Lex Luthor.
It's just wrong. I can't believe I have to be the representative for the sane Snyder fans and not the insane toxic cult that just goes around spewing things out of their mouth. I can't believe I have to be the
They'll just
representative.
say anything other than maybe this movie, maybe there's a reason people don't like this movie, and it's not that there's some worldwide conspiracy to ruin Zack Snyder. They won't say that.
I acknowledged every single point over these past 100 podcasts, even conceded points about things that people did not like about Snyder and his DCU choices. I conceded and I understood and acknowledged every single point. So for now, I'm still gonna say that his early work and working on stuff that already has source material is way better than stuff that he's coming up with on his own. I would dare. I would dare.
Rebel Moon proved that.
Minus Army of the Dead, which I think that's pretty darn good.
Oh yeah.
Like it is what it is, man. I think that we're in a different conversation if Warner Brothers and Zach just didn't have that beef going on. If they didn't have that beef going on, we're in a whole different category with the DC cinematic universe, levels ahead of what it turned out to be. But it's like I always say, it's an unfortunate situation where one of my favorite directors and a studio just were not on the same page, and the fans suffered for it. So I mean that's all there is to it. That's all there is to it at that.
I mean, to wrap up, bro, going back to our first conversation, Endgame is amazing.
Masterpiece.
That's its legacy. Best fight scenes I've ever seen. Bringing it all together. Tom Holland's "We Won, Mr. Stark" at the man. That dude ripped our hearts out in 2 back-to-back Avengers movies. He ripped our hearts out when he died in Infinity War. And I mean, they couldn't just let Spider-Man fade away like everybody else. No. This dude had to go, "Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good." And then he falls into Tony's arms. "I don't want to go. I don't want to go." I'm like, oh, come on. Y'all didn't have to do us like, y'all know Tom Holland is one of our favorites. Y'all know that. And they just let him disappear.
I should have bought you like a piece of the tension cut from that theater when Infinity War ended. That's why I put Infinity War at least a touch above Endgame, just because people didn't, like a whole bunch of these newbies who don't know anything about comics just thought, oh yeah, the good guys are gonna win this just like always. I'm like, y'all must have never read the Infinity War comics before, have you? Y'all don't know anything, do you? Y'all don't know what's about to happen. They're sitting there thinking, oh, it's gonna be all right. Well, they got it. They're gonna win. And then just silence as soon as Thanos snaps his finger. They weren't ready. They were not ready.
Nah. This is a good one, bro.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. As always, thank you guys for tuning in. Shout out to everyone on X. Shout out to everyone on YouTube, our Facebook, Instagram. Shout out to everyone in the J House community. This is J House Podcast Radio. We'll have this video up on all our platforms everywhere, YouTube, and you can listen to podcasts as well. And we will catch you guys later, man. Have a good one. Peace.